Okay, everybody, this is my spoiler review of Succession Season 4, Episode 5, Killis. Please, before I jump into this review, subscribe. I am so close to hitting 30K. It'd really help in so many ways, especially so I can get that Rotten Tomatoes credential. I'd really be grateful, and as always, appreciate all of you. So we see with this episode, we get to see the beginning of Kendall and Roman together as co-CEOs on the first day on the gig at the office. And you already see it's setting right from the start that Kendall really never thinks to add Shiv to anything, and that Roman sort of does, but still is lackadaisical about it, and he should be more getting Shiv involved. This always happens to Shiv, and she's not even put on emails from Frank, and she's getting frustrated by it. And it's interesting because there's huge decisions being made with Kendall and Roman always allude to inviting Shiv, but they don't actually do it. So it's a lot of still them making the decisions together without having Shiv on the play, especially with Kendall. Kendall just totally lied to Shiv's face about that and having her involved with everything, and they had sworn on their father. That's how cold this family can be. But as cold as this family can be to each other, it's amazing when you see a character like Matsson who makes the Roy family way likable of how awful of a person Matsson is. Just a total psychopath. And a lot of the stuff we see Roman lay onto him is so true about him. And it was very cathartic even watching that because they make Matsson really hateable in this episode. And that's a prop to Alexander Skarsgård, who by far has the best guest appearance on the show of all time, and he completely owned this episode, knocked it out of the park. And that's what's so fun about watching a show like Succession when they have great guest stars like they did with Adrian Brody. But here with Alexander Skarsgård, it's cool to watch him, Kieran Culkin, Jeremy Strong, and Sarah Snook chew up the screen together, and it really, he just clicked right in and did an amazing job. But we see that Matsson wants the whole party to come to Norway, and they know what this is about. They know that he wants to see everybody and see who's probably going to be put on this kill list when he buys the company, who's going to stay and who's going to go. So I love seeing the old guard all worried about that and trying to fit in this episode. One of my favorite lines of the episode was Tom saying to Greg, "I'm not worried about Matsson. I'm worried about being whacked by the cast of Bugsy Malone out there." While you see a shot of Roman hanging out of the car like a kid, I thought that was hysterical. Now, it's also interesting, Shiv mentions to Kendall and Roman that there's articles that are putting Dad in a bad light and making it seem like the brothers are the ones handling everything. Now, we know this was the cliffhanger last episode and that Kendall was putting this together. My only issue that consistently happens with Succession, and I have a feeling it's going to happen here again, is that they lightly address that here with this scene with Kendall doing that, but they bring up a lot of cliffhangers in the show and big moments that happen with characters, like when Shiv came out with that letter about Kendall, and then it really doesn't have big significance and they don't even touch it again. They love to do that in the show. I feel like that's going to continue here with that, just the way this episode was written, but so be it. But that is one of the things that kind of bothers me about Succession, where they make a big deal of something and then you never hear about it really again, or it doesn't have the impact they allude to in the prior episode. I thought it was very funny that Roman and Kendall are obsessing over this movie throughout this episode, not really focusing a lot on the deal and about these reshoots, and there was a problem happening on set where people were getting overworked, but they didn't really care about that part. But that they actually end up using that film, because they know it's bad right now and it's rough cut, to actually turn Matsson's crew off of the deal. I thought that was a good payoff with that. It's also interesting that Roman and Kendall say to Shiv early in the episode that they would do her a favor and cut Tom if she wanted to, but she doesn't really go with that. So a little bit of foreshadowing about her play at the end of the episode, but there's more to that, which I'll break down. And we're talking about this show's really good with humor, but also humorous payoffs in the same episode, and that really happens here when Connor tells them that Marsha wants to put Logan in a kilt. And I love that Kendall's just like, "Oh, just have them send photos." And Roman's like, "This isn't the beach." And that Connor will still send the photo to Roman later on. I thought that was great while this is all happening in a ski lift. Really, really hysterical to me. And really some of the funniest lines in this episode. Here's another one here. When the old guard starts eating and the Gojo team comes down and he says, "Ambush, you took the bait, fattened for the kill." Thought that was so good. And you just see how like unthoughtful Matsson is, where when they meet with him, he doesn't even say sorry for the loss about their dad. And he's asking for them to say sorry about his dad because he found him in a car, almost like one-upping their tragedy. This is a man who makes the Roys look like good people. But I absolutely love this scene with the first negotiation with Matsson and the two brothers talking over each other, and also the big divide that was going to happen between them, because we've already seen the start that Roman is someone who wants to protect their dad's legacy, his wishes, and Kendall's not about that. And you see that come into play here with the deal that Matsson offers to take ATN in, which of course Roman's not going to want to do because that is his dad's treasure. Now, Shiv finds out that 18 has an open line to Jared Mankins' campaign. This will be a good justification for her to fire Sid there, and that will pay off later on in the episode. And part of the reason why she keeps Tom aboard, but we know the real reason is because there's still something there. And they finally actually talk to each other, even though it's in a very weird, heated exchange with Tom, and that he flicks her in the ear. Very strange scene, but it is interesting that after everything goes through with Matsson, this big deal happens, and we see stuff happening with her and Matsson behind the scenes. She gets a high from this and then asks Tom, to go to dinner, and basically tells him he's not getting fired. So I thought that was very interesting. I like that they kind of didn't just fully end this Tom and Shiv romance, and that there's something still there brewing and what can happen and actually save Tom's job in the end, his relationship with Shiv. And there was hints already that Matsson and Shiv would get along because, again, when Matsson's having a heated debate and being very straight up about his thoughts about ATN and Waystar, when he says that it's news for angry old people and that doesn't work long term, Shiv likes this. You see her smirk. So you already see that there is a linked mindset between the two of them. And he's really harsh when he calls him a tribute band. But I love what he says, that he's staying with his offer. He's like, I am what I am when I am. And Roman's like, okay, Popeye, that was great. But I like we get to see Kendall the killer here, right? He wants to tank the whole deal, and he pitches this to Roman. He's like, I like us running the ship. I think we're good at it. He's a bad fit, and he's just going to destroy everything Dad built. Kendall's not wrong about this either. He's definitely got a good read on that. And this is where Roman's conflicted because it's Dad's deal. At the end of the day, Roman really just wants to make the original deal without having ATN included. And this is big because they know Shiv, like they said, won't be down with this, so they don't tell her. Again, not keeping her in these big decisions. So they know they have to make Matsson look like he killed the deal so the board doesn't get suspicious. And you see that Roman's like, thinks it's weird that Kendall's smiling for this because Kendall loves the thrill. This is what he likes. And he will get Roman to agree with him. But this is where it's a big Shiv episode, because while they're making these big decisions without her, she's really pulling the strings behind the scene. And she's a big part of why Matsson made the deal. Now, this can be up for interpretation. It's more to me, the scene with her and Matsson is her solidifying her place and trust from Matsson, and that this will move her up in the company when Matsson, now we see, buys the company. He likes Shiv a lot, and she knows his dirty laundry now about Ebba. And it's fascinating she did not tell Kendall and Roman about this. And it's very strange that this man was sending Ebba blood. That started as a joke, he says, and then it wasn't, and then it was a joke again. And she's like, just stop doing it, because she knows that's going to be something really bad, because if he buys the company, the U.S. media is going to know who he is now, and they're going to eat that up. But that's what you see. She's mentioning that Carolina is good at her job. She's mentioning Jerry would be good at this. These are all little lines. She's really basically helping Matsson pick that kill list. And he's like, I like you. You can take a joke like your dad. Shiv loves this, and what I thought was so fascinating about this is when Matsson then meets with Roman and Kendall, he calls them out for Scooby-Dooing him. He's on to them, trying to make him kill the deal. And I love when he calls Logan a prick. This just was the end of the line for Roman here. And Roman has his best moment to me in the show to date, where he just lays into Matsson. I thought that was great. And he tells him that he killed his dad and drained the life out of him, dragging this for 6 months. He's like, we're not selling, I effing hate you. But what I loved about this was it really, to me, motivated Matsson, that they were tanking the deal, telling him they're not going to sell straight out. And then him bringing his offer up to 192 just to piss them off. That's why he calls Shiv and says, I want a picture of your brother's faces. So it's weird that that got the deal done. Roman standing up to him, and him just like in his psycho ways, just actually paying more money to make them angry and have to give the company to him. So it's not totally Shiv who got the deal done behind the scenes, but it's more of, it helps because he likes Shiv and he can work with Shiv, and it's going to bring her up in the ranks. But there is that crazy thing about it that, yeah, Roman and Kendall clearly showing they wanted to tank the deal. It was more of Matsson wanting to do this to screw them and make them pissed. And that's why you see Shiv's on this high, like I said. She goes to Tom, he's safe, and we get the reveal of the speculated kill list, but we know it's probably just going to be the confirmed kill list, and that we're going to lose of the old guard, Hugo, Frank, and Carl, and that Carolina, Jerry, and Tom are safe because of that Shiv connection. So overall, I'm going to give this episode a 9.1. I thought it was really standout scenes with everything Alexander Skarsgård and fighting with the kids here, but then bonding with Shiv. He was amazing this episode. Wasn't my favorite episode of the session, but still really, really good. And it's going to be interesting now, him having and owning the company, Matsson, and what's going to happen, how it's going to affect Roman and Kendall in particular, and where Shiv's going to go from this. So really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the end game is here. And I love that this whole season has been this consistent, and every episode's been really exciting to me. It makes me really believe that this is the best season to date now, even over season 1, because it feels like the show right now is just rolling. Like when a show just gets on fire, that's what's happening with this season of Succession for me. Like there's been no duds, there's been none that have been okay, that wasn't great. Like they're all really excellent episodes, and I don't see that stopping. We're just gonna finish strong here, I feel like. So I can't wait to see what happens next. But let me know what you guys thought. I love to read your comments. I respond to as many as I can. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss one of my reviews of Succession. I'm also doing Yellow Jackets as well. I also do celebrity interviews. And please follow me at Steve Varley Show on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok for more of me. And I'll see you next time.